Hello there. Welcome back, and I really truly mean it. Welcome back to Star Wars in a Galaxy, watching all the Star Wars we can get our hands on. I'm Eli.
I am Jacob.
And we are back after over a month, having been gone with trips, with Jacob and I have been away from town. We've been wrapped up in all sorts of things. But we're finally back with another episode of Star Wars in a Galaxy. We're back with Season 10, Episode 77 of Star Wars in a Galaxy. Jacob, we were discussing this before we started recording, but what's the biggest momentous occasion of this episode? What have we left behind?
We have left behind, over the past year and a half, almost 2 years, our best friend, the fortune cookie, is no more in any of our content that we're going to watch from here on out.
No fortune cookie.
That's pretty crazy to
cookie,
say.
October 2020 to March 2022.
That is pretty crazy to say. I feel like we kind of I at least feel like I've lived and died by the fortune cookie.
Me too, 100%.
For a lot of the unpacking of every episode, so it's gonna be very interesting.
Absolutely.
But yeah, we're this is so close to just being a Star Wars show again, and not just a pure Clone Wars show, because that's what it's been.
Yeah.
For most of our time now, actually.
Yeah. We're going on to bigger and greater things. Not to say Clone Wars wasn't great, because by all accounts it was. But
Clone Wars is freaking fantastic, as we will discuss in this episode.
It's awesome. But I will tell you, there was a distinct feel because I remember I watched Old Friends Not Forgotten, and I remember Siege of Mandalore, awesome arc. I think my favorite arc in this entire series. Had some of my favorite ones in the entire series. But I remember there was a little voice in the back of my mind that when we looked at Old Friends Not Forgotten, thought, oh, this again. Clone Wars again. And then I watched Revenge of the Sith, which I will say this, I like the Siege of Mandalore more than I like Revenge of the Sith. Even saying that, I'm like, holy shit, I'm watching Star Wars again. Like, there's something for me about watching a Star Wars film. No shade to any of the shows, live action, animation, I love them all. No shade to any of that, but there's something about watching a theatrical Star Wars film that just hits different for me.
Yeah, I have to. As much as I love Rebels, I love the Clone Wars. Yeah, there's something about it that just. I mean, especially for me, the prequels. The nostalgia, the just the unmistakable visual language. I would say that I think each trilogy in its own right has kind of created. It's unmistakable. It's created this unmistakable visual style, and just style of how it does things.
Absolutely.
Across the visuals, the dialogue, the plot, everything. And so it's really nice to get back into that a little bit.
Yeah, and the shows, and again, no shade to the shows, but the shows have this thing where there are iconic moments in these shows. Absolutely there are. But I can read the script of Revenge of the Sith in my head, practically. There are very few things in Revenge of the Sith that I don't know is going to happen, and I get to be like Leonardo DiCaprio in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, pointing at the screen, saying, oh my god, there's that, I love that. Or, oh my god, there's that, I always thought that was a little weird. Or, oh my god, they're doing that again. Remember the first time I watched that, they did that for the first time? I will say this about some stuff for some of the notes I took for Revenge of the Sith. And again, we're going to do Siege of Mandalore first. We'll explain our timeline stuff when we get into it. But, Jacob, I have a little surprise for you. So, I think you've heard me refer to this Revenge of the Sith as that one Star Wars movie that is a meme every 5 minutes.
It is quite literally a meme every... Man, even more often than 5 minutes.
Yeah. So I decided to find out exactly how often. So I am tracking the times between every single meme in the movie. Not every meme, just every popular meme. and I'm cracking them down. And I will, at the end of our watch along, I will average it to see exactly how long you have to wait in the film before another meme shows up on average.
Wow.
I've already done it for the first 25 minutes. There are 19 memes. 19 in the first 25 that I found. 19. Nearly one a minute. It's bonkers. We loved it when in the Clone Wars when we got one an arc. But I just got 19 in the first 25 minutes.
Yeah, it was insane. I couldn't even keep track of all of them.
But
it was wild.
But either way, before we get into it, I just want to note one thing. We're going to include this link in our description. But friend of the show, Meg Dowell, wrote an article for dorksideoftheforce.com, where she lays out a very interesting and very good way to watch the Siege of Mandalore and Revenge of the Sith linking into each other. And Jacob and I are following that order. Again, we're going to post the link in the description if any of you want to check it out. But we watched Old Friends Not Forgotten, and second we watched Revenge of the Sith 0 to 25, the first 25 minutes at least.
Is this in exact chronological order?
Roughly, like almost exactly.
Yeah. Couldn't get much closer without really chopping things up and making it a jarring viewing experience, I assume.
Yeah, absolutely. We're gonna do a few weirder stuff later in the recording sessions, but for now, let's just get into this. Let's get into Old Friends Not Forgotten. Why not?
Let's freaking do it.
Our fortune cookie is oh shit.
Oh wait. Error, fortune cookie not found.
Error 404.
Instructions unclear. Abandoned ship. Error.
Time to abandon ship.
So in Old Friends Not Forgotten, we open with Obi-Wan and Anakin fighting a battle on the planet of Yerbana. Major battle, droids, clones, just going at it, going crazy. Obi-Wan is pinned down. He's outnumbered. This is an Outer Rim siege, by the way, just to set the stage. Anakin comes in. He does a false surrender, ends up using that as an ambush to be able to break through the droid lines. However, Anakin and Obi-Wan are called back to their capital ship because there is a message from Ahsoka. Ahsoka and Bo-Katan board their ship and tell them that Maul is on Mandalore. He is in the capital city of Sindari, and Bo-Katan proposes a joint operation between the Republic Army and the Mandalorian Death Watch in order to capture Maul and bring him to justice. The Jedi are skeptical at first, but they do decide to go along with this until they get word that they must return to Coruscant to protect the Chancellor because Coruscant is under attack. Ahsoka is indignant about this, but Anakin compromises by splitting the 501st in half and promoting Rex to commander, putting Rex in command of the 501st and sending Ahsoka as an advisor since she is no longer in the Jedi Order or the Grand Army of the Republic. And before they part ways, Anakin returns Ahsoka her lightsabers, now with a new blue hue. Ahsoka, along with the Death Watch and the Grand Army of the Republic, they launch a massive all-out attack on the capital city of Sindari. They fight against Maul's Mandalorian forces. They do break through, but they are led into the Undercity. They are led into the Undercity by Gar Saxon, where the Maul's Mandalorians and Maul make quick work of the clone troopers. And we end basically with Maul saying, of course, the iconic line, "I was hoping for Kenobi. Why are you here?" Very exciting episode. Lots to talk about. You want to just get right into it?
Yeah. By the way, I found it important to note, I like this bit of trivia, that the path of the 501st that goes with Ahsoka is called the 332nd Company of the 501st Division. Just thought that was
Good to
interesting.
know.
Yeah,
Good to know.
but we start off with did you notice, Jacob, the classic Lucasfilm Limited production?
Yes, I did notice that.
Yeah. I wrote in my notes, this is not a regular The Clone Wars arc. This is a The Clone Wars theatrical experience.
Yeah.
And also we start off with not the Clone Wars theme. We start off with the Star Wars theme.
Yeah, they're definitely making it feel less like a show and more like an animated movie. And I would argue that this would have been better served possibly by making it like a second Clone Wars movie to kind of
I would agree with that, yeah.
bookend the series with the first one. I mean, such a finale really deserves all the best, especially considering, you know, just the importance of the Clone Wars. It being the kind of the crown jewel of Star Wars for a generation of fans, bringing people in, thrilling and captivating kids like me. Even though I watched it a little bit after it was released, I didn't quite grow up with it, but it still was what really kind of brought me into Star Wars. In a time when the prequels were kind of in the rearview mirror and the sequels were still just a twinkle in Disney's eye. And yeah, I'm really glad that they kind of pep it up and make kind of a bit of a special setup for these final episodes, because the Clone Wars, man, I'm at a loss for words having just rewatched it. It enhances the prequels so much. It just brings so much depth and humanity. It brings so much love and humanity and depth to the stories that it tells. I really can't praise it enough.
Yeah, it's great. You know, I'm a huge Clone Wars fan.
Oh yeah,
but this, and I'm just a huge fan of Siege of Mandalore in general, and I love how it enhances, especially Sith, with us knowing what's going on in Revenge of the Sith and knowing what's going on in Siege of Mandalore at the same time. It's great. I'll start with this one. In the opening narration from Tom Kane, we see Aayla Secura on Felucia, and we see Plo Koon flying above Cato Neimoidia, where we know they're going to be shot down by their own clones, not an hour and a half later.
Yeah.
It's so weird to see that in animation and seeing the chess pieces literally be set like down firmly and getting everybody into their places for Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, it's really chilling.
And like there's even that line too about Shaak Ti going to protect the Chancellor, which is a holdover from Legends and the 2003 Genndy Tartakovsky Clone Wars stuff.
Yeah.
And you know, again, it's setting the stage, and I love how much it sets the stage.
I love it as well. I think just that little bit of exposition of the Outer Rim sieges, it hits so much harder now having rewatched all of the Clone Wars, first time rewatching it all the way through in chronological order. Yeah, it's just the sense of urgency and desperation that Revenge of the Sith already brings in its exposition for the Outer Rim sieges is just so enhanced by this sense of the show telling us, look at everything that we've already been through. It's all coming down to this. Like, this is it, pretty much, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's this. It's interesting. There's this. And you were talking about this as well, like the parallels and it all coming down to this, and I'm sure we'll get more into this, but there is this full circle aspect of Old Friends Not Forgotten, especially because I do feel like we see a lot, like Yerbana, if we want to jump into that right now. Yerbana is Christophsis reversed.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Yes, I was about to say the parallels are, yeah, it's very intentional, and I love it.
It's great. I love it as well. You know, clones are fighting a battle on a lush foreign world against pretty similar droid forces. Anakin uses an unconventional yet really genius plan to save the day. The Jedi get pulled aside from a battle to meet Ahsoka. Even the shot where Ahsoka meets R2 in the movie and in the Siege of Mandalore are like almost identical.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things there where you can see how much Ahsoka has changed from the first time she pats R2 on the head to this time.
Oh, absolutely.
You can see the changes not just in Ahsoka but in Anakin and in Obi-Wan, and how they've changed in the last few years. They've become more mature. They've become less mature. Some of them. They've been through all of these crippling battles, and it's just
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable how much the characters of the Clone Wars have grown between these movies. Yeah, obviously, like you said, I love the way the opening battle, it just feels like a complete mirror of Christophsis. The false surrender, especially, Obi-Wan, then Anakin now.
I was gonna say, I wrote in my notes literally. I'm like, Jacob is going to mention that Anakin commits a war crime here, and I'm not going to mention it in my notes because I know he'll go off on it.
I mean, you know what Anakin would say, right?
What?
He would say, "Is it really a war crime if you win?"
That's true. Also, his other justification was, did you remember this one? They said the people are starving. If you want to let the people starve for a few minutes longer, Master, then go ahead.
Yeah.
But I say we just win this battle.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's so
savage. It's so hilarious.
It's so hilarious, and it's so emblematic. It's such a good in this kind of series, which has to kind of put a bow on the Clone Wars. It's so emblematic of their relationship, and it's such a good kind of microcosm wrapping up everything that they are in this situation. We have Anakin, coming in hot shot, super confident, do whatever it takes to get the job done. And Obi-Wan has he's always been this way, but even since Christophsis, we can see that he's matured to the point where he thinks that, unlike Anakin, he believes victory by any means necessary is no victory at all.
Yeah.
And he's much more invested in following the Jedi way and being moral, much more so, I would say, than Anakin is.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that goes without saying.
No, absolutely. And I also think of, I do think it has to do a little bit with morality. I also do think it has to do with a bit of, and I'm surprised I'm the one bringing this up in this episode, but the Jedi losing their way.
You beat me to the punch.
Yeah, I know. But there is something like, a normal, strict, regimented Jedi would not do something like that.
Yeah,
I'm not talking
100%.
about the false surrender. I'm just talking about like Anakin's like ridiculous plan. You know who would do that? Someone who's related to him by blood, like for example, his son. Have you seen this parallel?
Explain it a little more. I'm curious.
So, Anakin explains his plan to Obi-Wan, and let's just say Obi-Wan says something like, "Are you just gonna walk out with your laser sword and face down the entire Separatist droid army?"
Oh, yeah, of
flash
course.
to Luke flash to Luke asking Rey, "What do you think I'm gonna walk out with a laser sword and defeat the entire First Order?" And then flash to Luke, of course, doing that in The Last Jedi. Both of them have this, like, they just walk out with their lightsaber extended, and they're like, "So what are you gonna," to the opposing army, and they're like, "So what are you gonna do?" And they they of course try to kill him, and both of them have other plans. A lot of people have pointed out, I'm not the first one to make that connection between Luke on Crate and Anakin on Yerbana, but I wrote in my notes, Ki-Adi-Mundi couldn't do that, Luminara and Dooley couldn't do that, Mace Windu couldn't do that, Yoda at some points in his life, I believe, couldn't do that.
Yeah.
Who could do that? Qui-Gon probably could do that. Ahsoka probably could do that. Luke could probably do that. I believe Rey could probably do that. All of the Jedi who are not afraid to trust their instincts.
if I can actually rave for one more moment about this opening battle, this show is so beautiful now.
It really
Season
is.
7, this is the Clone Wars, or this is the animation that the Clone Wars always deserved to have. And I know that I think part of the charm of early Clone Wars obviously is the animation in my opinion, but I can't help but wonder what some of those early episodes would like if they were remade in 2017, 2018, 2019 when this was being made, because good golly, everything is just jaw-dropping. The explosions are so beautifully done, the lasers, the choreography, it's so fluid. This one detail that I noticed, we see this one panning shot of the gunship, the Republic gunship, go up to the cruiser. Just the way the sun glints off the nose in that moment, I paused it and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna write and I'm gonna gush about this. And oh my goodness, it's so beautiful.
Yeah, it's the animation is incredible, and that slow tracking shot of Obi-Wan deflecting that like missile with his lightsaber at the very beginning is just simply a work of art.
Yeah, it feels very cinematic.
It
Going
does.
back to what you were saying about this being almost more of a movie that's split into parts.
It really is. I saw friend of the show Trey from Skywalking Through the League just talk about on Twitter how he thought that Siege of Mandalore was a Star Wars movie, and I completely agree with him. You want to just jump ahead to the re-meeting of Anakin and Ahsoka and Obi-Wan and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, the hologram, what do you make of Anakin's reaction? Because I found it very, very interesting. But I wanted to know if you had any thoughts specifically.
No, I didn't. I thought Anakin's reaction was perfect. There was a bit of dialogue
Yeah.
later in the episode that I was a little confused about, but we'll get to that when we get to
All right. Yeah.
that.
I think his reaction again, yeah, it was perfect. The way he was, man, for an animated show, they showed his emotions and just the entire spectrum of emotions that he went through in the 5 seconds that it cut over to him, that was just incredible to me.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, Anakin's reactions were perfect. Anakin's reactions were perfect, I think. Um, so there's this conversation when they're going to meet Ahsoka, between Anakin and Obi-Wan, and Anakin goes, I get it now. Ahsoka needed to be where she needed to be. This is where she was meant to be at this time to take on Maul. And then he's like, aren't you excited? We're going to take on Maul. And Obi-Wan's like, and Anakin's like, dude, why are you not more excited about this? And there was that whole thing about Jedi letting their emotions cloud their judgment and how they don't want to do that. But come on, Obi-Wan, this guy killed your girlfriend and then and has a lifetime grudge against you because he killed your master and then you split him in half. This guy is like basically the textbook definition of your arch nemesis, and you aren't even a little excited to go and hunt him down. I'm not saying letting your emotions cloud your judgment. I'm saying have them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of what makes Obi-Wan great, is he is kind of the textbook Jedi. So I think it's very in character for him
Yeah.
to
I'm
be
not I
able
wouldn't
to
say
be that
that
self-aware.
I wouldn't say that makes him great. I would say that
Maybe that's not what makes him great, but
I would say that
we have to know
that
that,
is what Obi-Wan's character is, yeah.
yeah, that's what his character is. And whether it's because of that, whether it's in spite of that, whether it's both because and in spite of his status as kind of, the very, very textbook Jedi, super restrained to a fault, super by the book, oftentimes to a fault. That is his greatness.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's absolutely a key part of his character,
So I think it's
100%.
very in. I think it's very in character to him personally.
Yeah, no, I think it's in character. I just, yeah. Uh, and let's see. Anyway, and then we get to the meeting between Ahsoka and Bo-Katan and Anakin and Obi-Wan.
Yeah, this meeting. This is where it gets. This is where it gets really crazy.
It gets really heated, and Bo-Katan describes how she knows that Maul is on Mandalore and all that kind of stuff. And I'm sure there's lines that stick out to you from this scene, but the line that automatically sticks out to me from this scene is when she said something like, "This is what my sister would have wanted. I thought she meant something to you."
Yeah, I think it just said something about like I don't think the first part she said. I think it was just like I thought my sister. It was something about Obi-Wan. She knew that Obi-Wan and her sister had a special connection, and then she
Yeah.
just kind of used that to try and
Yeah, I thought she meant something to you.
yeah, I thought she meant something to you.
And it hurts. It really hurts.
Yeah, you can
Because
see the
she's
pain.
right. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
absolutely.
you can see the pain in Obi-Wan's face when she says that. It's a really beautifully done scene. Man, they and yeah, I mean, the Clone Wars never hesitates to make Obi-Wan hurt. Star Wars in general
110%.
seems to just love to put Obi-Wan through as much pain as I mean he's up there with some of the characters that kind of go through the most in Star Wars.
Oh yeah, Obi-Wan
And the
goes
show
through a
is better
lot.
for it. The show is better
The
for it
show is
as much
better,
as I
so the show is
sometimes wish
100% better for
as
it.
much as I sometimes wish they would cut him a break. What
Yeah.
was interesting to me, first of all, Bo-Katan's line where she ruefully says, "What's
What's
one
one
more
more?
war?" Yeah, it just the way the Republic, the Jedi have been drawn into so many wars.
And just
Yeah,
and Bo-Katan says, "What's one more?" Yeah,
yeah,
I know she's such a great character, isn't she?
yeah. She is a great character in some ways. To some
I
people for sure. Um,
I'm just saying that to piss you off, really. I know
I know,
that.
dude. You got my number. I've said too much about Bo-Katan. I've spoken too much about Bo-Katan.
I
You've
mean,
got my
like
number.
this is a perfect balancing act for us with characters because one of the main heroes in this arc is Bo-Katan and one of the main villains
Yeah,
of this arc is Maul.
I know.
So
So this
so
is
this is great.
like we both have we both have our thing that tests us to look
Yeah.
past. I mean,
And
I
it's
would
harder
say I
for
think
me. I'm gonna say it's harder for me because Maul is actually genuinely good in this. Like putting aside my biases, Maul is genuinely good in this arc in a way that
yeah,
Bo-Katan isn't. Mostly because he's the main villain and she's not the main hero.
yeah. I mean, I don't think she's a terrible character by any means. I just think the way they use her, what the writers kind of want her to be, feels inconsistent. And honestly, I just dislike her in universe.
Yeah, no.
Um,
My there was I get that. There's also that line, and I think this really explains Bo-Katan really well when they're flying down to Mandalore in the LAAT/I carrier, and she's talking via hologram to Almec is who she's
yeah,
talking to, and and Almec goes, "The people are gonna turn against you once they see you have Republic support." And her next line is the best.
yeah.
I'm fine with that.
That is a great line.
And that perfectly describes her character. Just
Yeah,
because she sides with the heroic characters does not mean she's a hero herself.
yeah,
She does not have. She's not doing things for the right reasons. She's
yeah,
doing good things, but she's not doing them for the good reasons.
yeah. I mean, here's my problem with her. Because going back to she obviously makes that big emotional appeal to Obi-Wan for help.
Yeah.
Here's my problem with that. she says, "Oh, Maul, he's destroying my people." It's crazy that she acts like the Republic owes her help because while Maul has been destroying her people for the past year, 6 months,
Meat kettle a little bit.
yeah, the Death Watch has spent the last few decades trying to destroy the Jedi and subjugate every single culture and people
Well,
that
yeah.
have the misfortune of living on a planet near Mandalore. I know this is the same Bo-Katan who helped set fire to an
The
innocent village
on
because the chief of the
fucking
village asked them to stop
what's that
taking
planet name?
slaves from them. Karlak.
Karlak.
I know
Wow, good pull. Good pull.
I know she remembers that from Karlak. But yeah, there's a little bit of,
damn. That's an
I think,
indictment
annoying.
right there. That's an
Yeah,
indictment.
that's just the annoyingness to me of kind of.
I mean, there's also like the
Yeah.
whole like the there's also like I'm thinking of Cad Bane's line in Book of Boba Fett, the final episode. Boba Fett is a cold-blooded killer who worked for the Empire, and everybody's like, "Bitch, what?"
Yeah, I mean, yeah. To be fair, I think this is not necessarily. I think just the way it's framed here makes it seem genuine, even if it may not be. So I think it's a little bit, I don't know. Clearly, she is very adept at trying to get what she wants, and she doesn't really care if she has to break a few eggs. At the same time, she is also very righteous and sees herself as a righteous hero for Mandalore. So it's tough to tell whether this falls in manipulation or delusion. But either way, interesting character, not my favorite is where I'll leave it for now.
Okay, that's fine. Again, that's fine. Let's see. So I want to talk about this actually. Do you want to talk about the 332nd Company with the helmets, or do you want to?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
That's such a moment right there.
Yeah, such a moment, man. Such a moment.
I feel like I'm saying that a lot in this episode because
it's true.
It's true for everything.
The moments in this episode, the emotional beats in this episode work. Yeah. All of them work.
Yeah. This is the writers saying, okay, you know what? These characters have been through a lot. We're gonna throw you guys a bone. We're gonna give you some closure.
100%.
We're gonna put some pretty bows on some things. Just this once.
Just this once.
Just this once.
Yeah, the Ahsoka seeing that the clones' helmets are all painted like her face tattoos, walking out. Loyalty means everything to the clones, as Anakin says. They keep referring to her. Thanks, Rex. You don't need to call me Commander anymore. Sure thing, Commander.
Yeah.
So good. Captures the essence of their relationship so well. I want to talk about this. The conversation that Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, and Anakin have right before the alarms go off and they have to rush off to fight in the Battle of Coruscant.
All right, let's talk about it.
So I always found this dialogue a little bit weird because I feel like Ahsoka was being a little harsh. Honestly. Like, Obi-Wan was saying to her that, like,
oh, yeah.
The Chancellor could be kidnapped. We need to protect the Republic. We need to do all that kind of stuff. And Ahsoka's like, Lady Bo-Katan and her people need your help. And this is why people didn't trust the Jedi. They're playing politics. And I'm like, and Obi-Wan's like, the people of Coruscant need our help too. And she's like, no, the Chancellor needs your help. And I'm like, okay, Ahsoka. Like, I understand if you don't agree with him, but, like, this one seems pretty important. I'm not saying it's more important than Mandalore, but Coruscant is home, I believe, to 1 trillion people.
Yeah.
And it's under attack by the Separatists. And, like, it's one of those lines where I don't know if you remember this line from the Bad Batch show, Tech, says, understanding you does not mean I have to agree with you. And that feels like a very Ahsoka quote, except for this one moment where she's like, this is why people don't trust the Jedi. I'm like, slow down.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a weird argument. Ahsoka has a good point that people are losing faith in the Jedi
Absolutely. I
and
just
that they
think
are becoming a
she's.
tool of the Republic. But yeah, I agree. Obi-Wan is right.
I'm not
I
saying
mean,
Obi-Wan's right. I'm saying Ahsoka is being
yeah,
weirdly harsh and using it in just like
yeah. I
a
think
really
Obi-Wan's more right. I mean,
strange moment.
given the information that they have, given they
Yeah.
don't know Palpatine's a Sith Lord, they don't
Yeah.
know
Given
any
the
of these
information
plain
they have, I
sides,
think Obi-Wan's more right.
why wouldn't they help? Why wouldn't they rush to defend the heart of the Republic and this massively popular morale boosting leader who's kind of keeping the Republic together? Why wouldn't they help protect that against a massive strike? Why would they
Yeah.
neglect that
No,
in
absolutely.
favor of launching? They would neglect. Ahsoka would have them neglect that in favor of launching an invasion of a neutral planet based on the word of a terrorist who previously tried to kill Jedi. Even if the siege is successful, in the end, even if they
Yeah.
apprehend Maul afterwards, they would be handing Mandalore over to Bo-Katan, who, as far as they know, is just a dangerous anti-Jedi, anti-Republic extremist with a long history of terror tactics and
Yeah.
brutality. So I
Yeah.
just don't understand why Ahsoka would expect them to
Yeah.
go along
Yeah.
with that. Obviously, she knows Bo-Katan a bit more. She knows that there's more to the story.
Yeah.
They've gotten to know each other. But yeah, I can't help but kind of feel feel more like Obi-Wan's kind of got my
Yeah.
sympathy on this one.
And Obi-Wan can be rather cold, and Obi-Wan can be rather distant, as is the way of most Jedi of the
Yeah.
time. Um, and I believe it or not, I actually do think in most of these scenarios, I think Ahsoka provides the better argument than Obi-Wan does.
Yeah.
But this one is just like, and I don't want to make it sound like I hate Ahsoka or anything. Ahsoka is one of my favorite characters, and it's because I like her so much as a character that this felt so off to me.
Yeah. I agree.
It's really strange, but whatever. I also like
It's kind of for me. It's kind of like
yeah.
I know you've spent some time on Mandalore. You've spent some time with Bo-Katan. You've had your experience at this Maul. But why is she suddenly all in on Mandalore and Bo-Katan? I don't quite understand.
Yeah,
It doesn't
I don't
quite
really
make sense to me.
either. But moving on, if you're ready to move on.
Yeah.
Um, First of all, Obi-Wan's I do like how Obi-Wan says, "Hey, one thing about Maul before you go, he doesn't stay dead." I really like the whole like Obi-Wan's managed to get a little clip out to remind Ahsoka,
Yeah.
"Hey, even though we disagree with this, I still care about you. I
Yeah.
still love you." And
Yeah, it is definitely a good moment for Obi-Wan. And similarly when Ahsoka
this is the last time
calls
they'll
out
ever
to
see each
Anakin.
other.
Yeah. Especially she calls out, she says, "Hey, good luck."
Yeah,
Despite the fact that she was kind of icing him for a
yeah,
while.
yeah. And that's the last time Anakin and Ahsoka will see each other until Rebels season 2. What do you got next for this episode?
Um, I think I want to go back and look at how Ahsoka kind of is a little bit obviously Anakin. He's like, "Oh, Ahsoka, how are you? Where have you been?" He's like very happy to see her, and she is much more reserved, and she keeps kind of avoiding like catching up with him as a friend. She just says,
Yeah.
"Oh, we need to, we need to focus on the mission. There's no time to waste." Um, what do you make of that? Did you see any intriguing things there? Because I was kind of surprised. That's always a surprising factor to me. I'm not sure if maybe Ahsoka is just kind of cautious of all the Jedi, and even though she knows Anakin was kind of in her corner during the trial debacle, she still kind of has some resentment for him or something.
I wouldn't describe it
What
as
do you make of that?
cautious. I would describe it as hurt.
So
I
you think
think
she feels hurt even by Anakin?
I think she feels hurt by the Jedi in general, and I
Yeah,
think
for sure.
I don't think she feels as hurt towards Anakin, but they're standing before her are two reminders of who she used to be
Yeah,
and what her destiny was going to be before nobody trusted her anymore.
yeah,
And she says to Anakin, in that meeting with Bo-Katan and Obi-Wan, well, I see you two certainly haven't changed. And
Yeah.
the implication is, unlike me, I've changed. I've moved on with my life. I have found greater pursuits. I've found greater things to move on to. But you are the same as I left you a year ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, yeah, maybe it is she just, there's so much hurt that she can't help but be reserved, even if it's not directly, even if it's not directed at Anakin.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you make of obviously it's very telling that Anakin, he kept Ahsoka's lightsabers. He seemed like he was just waiting for her to
Yeah.
come back and so he could give them back to her.
Yeah.
What do you make of the fact that he turned them blue
I'm not a huge fan of it because
without her asking? Without asking her,
yeah,
it's an interesting
decision. My justification for that in the universe is that he got the crystals he got. There's no I don't think the Jedi can control the color of their blade.
Yeah.
So I think he got the crystals that he was able to get.
Yeah. So you think he had to rebuild her lightsabers, or is there something I'm missing?
I think the crystals at least he had to redo.
Yeah, maybe that's why. Maybe you need to switch out the crystal or something. Who knows?
Yeah, I really
Interesting.
I really do believe that. And yeah, I would have preferred them green myself because Ahsoka just looks natural with green. And I love green, and I love Ahsoka. And I like it when the characters I like get the lightsaber colors that I like.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not a huge fan of it, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm kind of ambivalent about it, but I do think it's cool how perhaps it symbolizes how, Anakin has kind of left a part of himself with Ahsoka.
Yeah.
And we're seeing his journey. I don't think he ever really gets that back.
Absolutely. I don't think he gets it back either, and we'll talk about we'll talk about the Vader picking up her lightsaber in the snow all those years later when we get to Victory in Death. But yeah, Anakin left that little part of him with her. Now are we? Let's get down to the first siege of Mandalore. What do you say?
Yeah, let's do it.
So I want to talk to you about Star Wars Rebels because there are a bunch of Star Wars Rebels characters in this. Mostly Mandalorians. I'm sure you saw young Gar Saxon and Vanessa Marshall voiced Rook Cast, leading Maul's forces. And I'm sure you saw Ursa Wren, who might be pregnant at this point, actually, believe it or not.
Yeah, I mean that was a great reference, I thought.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing. Ursa Wren might be fighting while pregnant.
Yeah,
not with Sabine though. Not with Sabine.
I mean, they're Mandalorians.
Yeah,
they probably like Mandalorian pregnant women probably do 6 hours a day of hand-to-hand combat until they are literally delivering their baby.
Yeah, I'm sure.
That is what we've been told about Mandalorians.
100%.
I would not be surprised at all if she's going into battle while pregnant, because that's just something that it seems like Mandalorians would do, to be honest.
Yeah, seems like that to me as well. But I found out while doing some research that actually Tristan's younger than Sabine.
Really? So does Sabine have any other siblings?
No, I think she might be pregnant with Tristan, is what I'm saying.
Oh, Sabine's already born.
Sabine
is older than Sabine's older than Ezra, at least, and Ezra was born on the original Empire Day.
Yeah. Which is Revenge of the Sith. And no, Sabine was born in 21 BBY, and this is 19, so Sabine's 2, which is weird to think about. Yeah. Another Clone Wars movie parallel. In the Clone Wars movie on Teth, Ahsoka races Rex to the top. In the Siege of Mandalore, Ahsoka races Rex to the bottom.
Yeah, it's a pretty great parallel, especially considering the race to the top versus the race to the bottom. Just considering, you know, in the back of our minds, we know how this is going to end,
Yep.
unfortunately. Yeah, so that's a great parallel there. Yeah, the Siege of Mandalore, these initial action scenes, they're just so beautiful, so well put together. The choreography is so fluid. One of the many points that really jumps out to me as a marker of just how long, or of just what a long way the Clone Wars has come.
Yeah, absolutely. It's we're really coming full circle. And Rex obviously has that great line of "Some things never change."
Yeah,
Beautiful, beautiful, everything it needs to be. And then we should probably get to the Undercity of Mandalore,
yeah.
which felt very like thriller-esque to me. There was a lot of like sneaking
Oh yeah.
around and all that kind of stuff.
I love the suspense that we get as soon as the creepy, mysterious anticipation as soon as they drop down into those tunnels. Yeah, it's pretty great.
It's great. I think it's awesome. Uh, I and there is of course that infamous line. I was hoping for Kenobi. Why are you here?
Yeah.
To end off the episode, going into the Phantom Apprentice. But we can't talk about the Phantom Apprentice right now because we have to get to Star Wars Episode 3: Revenge of the Sith. War. The Republic is crumbling under attacks by the ruthless Sith Lord, Count Dooku. There are heroes on both sides. Evil is everywhere. In a stunning move, the fiendish droid leader, General Grievous, has swept into the Republic capital and kidnapped Chancellor Palpatine, leader of the Galactic Senate. As the Separatist droid army attempts to flee the besieged capital with their valuable hostage, two Jedi Knights lead a desperate mission to rescue the captive Chancellor. ... In the first 25 minutes of Revenge of the Sith, Anakin and Obi-Wan undertake a daring rescue mission to save Chancellor Palpatine from the clutches of Count Dooku and General Grievous. They emerge at the Battle of Coruscant. Obi-Wan has some trouble with buzz droids, but eventually they make it onto the Invisible Hand, and they get up to the observation platform where the Chancellor is being held. They meet up with Count Dooku, who immediately knocks Obi-Wan out, and Anakin duels him until he finally bests the Sith Lord, and cuts off his arms. Palpatine tells Anakin to kill Dooku, which Anakin eventually does, and they manage to escape with Palpatine in their custody, Anakin and Obi-Wan, until they're eventually captured by General Grievous, who takes them in and captures them through the use of ray shields. Grievous is holding them for a little bit, and then R2-D2 creates this distraction, and there engages a huge fight on the Invisible Hand, with eventually Grievous throwing a Magna Guard's Electro Staff at the window, shattering it to escape, and jettison an escape pod to a nearby Trade Federation capital ship. Meanwhile, Anakin and Obi-Wan maneuver the crashing ship, which eventually breaks off a half of it, to landing on Coruscant, where they're finally greeted and welcomed as heroes. I think that's pretty good, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Um, yeah,
what else? Yeah. This is a crazy opening
it's
for the
nuts.
movie, goes without
It's
saying.
crazy. Let's get into it,
I
frankly.
think I think this may be the most chaotic possibly opening to any Star Wars movie. I know there are generally the movies that follow a more exposition-y opening and ones that are
Yeah,
much more chaotic. And I know which side of the spectrum, I should say relatively exposition-y, because
yeah.
even movies like New Hope, where it's a little bit more calm and measured, have some
Still love their
craziness
stuff.
happening right
Yeah,
off the bat. But this one, we know which side of the spectrum it falls on, and it is absolutely glorious. I mean,
Absolutely. I'd say Rise of Skywalker is up there with this one.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
the heroes on both sides, there are heroes on both sides, there's evil everywhere. Some of these lines, I think were one of the parts of the experience for me that had changed the most, having coming out of watching all the way through the Clone Wars and thinking about this
yeah.
in terms of the Clone Wars.
I want to ask you something actually about some of those lines. Most of those
Yeah,
lines make a lot of sense to me. War is great, all that kind of stuff, urgency, blah blah blah.
yeah.
Republic's convoy never attacked by Dooku. There are heroes on both sides. Are there?
I mean, I think you can look at the episode heroes on both sides. You have people like Mina Bonteri.
Yeah,
It's a little bit mystifying in the context of Revenge of the Sith
it really
itself,
is. Because you
because I
know
can't
why?
really think
Mina Bonteri is
is not
dead.
here. Yeah.
Who are they talking about as
Yeah, it
heroes?
definitely is a bit
Surely not
mystifying.
Grievous, who they described as the fiendish droid leader,
Yeah.
not a paragraph later. And this is
Yeah,
not me
Grievous
trying to
is an
critique. I'm like,
interesting.
who are the heroes on the Separatist side? Like, who do the Separatists look up to as heroes? I know Dooku maybe a little bit, but like, who
Yeah,
are
it's
the
it's an
heroes on the
interesting
Separatist
choice.
side?
It's a choice that they made.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure what they thought, but I mean, in the context of the Clone Wars, we have Mina Bonteri, we have some other instances of a lot more moral ambiguity, evil everywhere. Obviously, the
Yeah.
Chancellor,
Evil everywhere is great because the Republic's very
people.
corrupt as well.
Yeah, the Republic is incredibly corrupt. You have people like Tarkin, you have people like Pong Krell. So that one to me makes more sense.
Yeah. Um, let's see. And I love that it describes Coruscant as besieged while the siege of
Yeah,
Mandalore is going on. I think that's
yeah,
perfect.
that is pretty funny.
It's an unintentional coincidence that's great.
Yeah.
Uh, I want to ask you, what do you think of this crawl in terms of crawls? Like in terms of movie crawls, where do you think it is?
In terms of movie crawls, that's not something I put. That's not something I've really actually paid attention to enough to say. This is a movie crawl that I particularly like or dislike. But I definitely think that the heroes on both sides line doesn't make a lot of sense in terms of the movie, but it is improved once we see the Clone Wars, once we see the scope of the conflict and how much more kind of moral ambiguity is introduced. But other than that, it's a little bit confusing.
Yeah, for me, I would say it's probably in the middle. There are some crawls, I like the Attack of the Clones crawl. I don't think is as good as this one. I don't like Attack of the Clones as much as this one. I'd say this and Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens are on par pretty much. They're all okay crawls, but like A New Hope's crawl is iconic. The Empire
Yeah.
Strikes Back crawl is incredible. The Rise of Skywalker's crawl is one of my personal favorites. It's not up to the level of any of those.
Yeah, it's middle of the pack.
It's fine. War is great. The war exclamation is great. The evil is everywhere is great. The desperate mission is great, but it doesn't rise to the whole. It's a period of civil war, rebel starships, that kind of stuff from New
Yeah, it's
Hope,
not quite
or
as
dark time for the rebellion, shit's going down of Empire Strikes Back, or the dead speak, Palpatine's back, motherfuckers,
Yeah.
of The Rise of Skywalker. Um,
It's not yeah, it's not quite as poetic as some of the best.
yeah,
But yeah, it's still great. Moving on now, the battle. I think the opening shot is incredible.
yeah,
One of my favorite moments of any Star Wars movie, you know, the dazzling sunrise,
yep.
that brief moment of just calm beauty,
And
followed
then
by just the utter chaos of
no.
panning down to this massive
You
battle.
missed the most important part.
What I miss?
Dun, 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 and it pounds down. Dun, 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 dun,
Yeah.
dun, 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 dun.
I will never
Boom,
not be
boom,
able to hear.
boom, 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 boom. Those
Yeah.
like drums are like
Yeah. The
iconic to
drum,
me.
yeah, kind of like the drum beats always kind of associated with war and
Yeah,
battle in Star Wars,
it's
and this is no exception. Yeah, and then just the way also that Anakin and Obi-Wan's starfighters are perfectly in unison. It's heartbreaking the way that's one of the last times that we're gonna see this amazing, lovable duo when they're in sync before they before Anakin goes to the dark side.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's awesome. I think it's like the opening of Revenge of the Sith is iconic for me. I
Yeah,
know
absolutely.
it. Revenge of the Sith gets criticized a lot for its overuse of CGI and its visual effects, but like think about how much effort was put into
Yeah,
just that opening battle in 2000 freaking 5.
yeah,
Like that would be ridiculous by today's standards,
yeah,
but this was 17 years ago.
yeah. I mean, what do you think about the visuals? Because to me, obviously, like I said, I think the visuals are helped by the fact that for many people and for me, just super near and dear to my heart, nostalgia factor of thinking back to when I was watching these movies for the first time, just getting into Star Wars as a much younger person. But I think they honestly, looking at it, the CGI, everything is honestly aged much better than I thought it would,
I
having not
agree with
watched
you,
this movie in a
actually.
long time.
I agree with you. I think the CGI has aged fine.
Like I think it looks very good.
I
I
think
think
it
it's
looks pretty
definitely
good.
aged the best of any of the
Yeah.
prequels.
I mean, I don't think it's aged like perfectly or anything, but like I
Yeah,
think it's aged fine.
it's not aged perfectly, but
Yeah.
compared to what I was kind of expecting it to be,
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty darn great, to be honest.
Yeah,
I
it's
thought it
great.
was
So
maybe not quite as slick as today's standards, but it was very beautiful.
yeah.
It was very
Let
beautiful.
me talk about the memes. Let me talk about the memes.
Oh gosh, yeah.
So again, I'm recording every single major meme I found. 19 in the first 25 minutes. Let's talk about the first two I found. 3 minutes 47 seconds in, and it's fitting that this is the first meme.
Yeah.
I see them. This is where the fun begins. Need I
Yeah.
say more?
Yeah.
And then of course, Anakin's circling around the starfighter, and he shoots him, and he goes, "Come on, R2," and he goes, "We got him, R2."
Yeah. Another classic.
Yeah. Those are the first two. From when they're in space. I also like the. Did you notice the Obi-Wan line to Anakin? You're gonna get us both killed.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is also a line Anakin says to R2. Um, in Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
Which I was thinking about the similarities between those and how interesting that is. Yeah. Um. What do you got for the space battle? Or should we get on to the Invisible Hand?
The space battle. I think I like the space battle more than I had previously. Um personally, I think that I didn't really notice it for the rest of the movie, at least the part that we watched for today. But I thought that the dialogue was a bit clunky, if I'm being honest. I don't know what you thought about this. It's fine compared to how some people make it out to be. It's not some great atrocity, but something about just the pacing between the lines, it just feels stilted. I'm not sure about it. Did you notice that at all, or am I just getting in very deep here?
I didn't really think. I didn't think. Like, I think the dialogue felt weird in other places, but I actually thought the space battle was pretty good.
Really? All right.
The place where I thought it was got really weird was when they were landing the invisible hand. Like,
Yeah.
I really want you to tell me what the hell does 8 plus 60 mean?
Excellent question.
Obi-Wan,
Excellent
for those
question.
of you who don't know what the hell I'm talking about, Obi-Wan, while he's landing the ship, while Anakin's landing the ship. By the way, Obi-Wan's not co-piloting the ship. He just says out loud, 8 plus 60? What is that? What kind of calculation is he doing? Why and what? And what? I really wish we
It's
got
just
some
one of those
explanation. Yeah.
things, I think. It's just one of those things, just one of those little oddities
Yeah.
that you get in Star Wars, especially in the prequels,
Yeah, it's
where you're just
weird.
like,
I don't understand.
now this is happening.
Yeah.
So I know I actually didn't pick up on that.
Yeah. 8 plus 60? It's
Yeah.
always been something that's annoyed me, actually. Um, did you notice, by the way, I love this too. Like, did you notice going into the invisible hand? Did you notice how Anakin and Obi-Wan leap out of their starfighters and immediately pull out their lightsaber and start lightsabers and start swinging?
Yeah.
And then in the elevator, did you notice how they killed their last battle droid in the same stance and then turned off their lightsaber at the exact same time?
Yeah. I think
Battle
it's
has
just
become so mechanized for them. They've become so
yeah.
used to war that it's like brushing their teeth or something.
Yeah, it's like brushing their teeth. The I love the just the nonchalance which with they were taking down these B1s, you know,
Scores of battle droids, yeah.
just busting out the craziest lightsaber moves just like it's nothing. You're absolutely right that wars unfortunately become second nature to them. Also just the way that they're in sync. Like it just makes what comes next all the more tragic, you know, seeing how they really are inseparable. They kind of they finish each other's sentences, metaphorically speaking, and they finish off each other's battle droids, literally speaking. So yeah, it just kind of it just I like how something I'm noticing more is how that kind of leads up to the great uh the great betrayal of what comes next.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some great stuff with this. This is actually one of my favorite bits of dialogue here. I sense Count Dooku. I sense a trap. Next move, spring the trap.
Yeah, I know that's one of my favorites as well. You just what I love about this is Obi-Wan. He's trying to act the part. He's trying to, you know, be this model Jedi. You know, he's always disapproving of Anakin being the renegade, and yet he he can't help but also enjoy himself just a
Yeah,
tad.
yeah,
He
and
can't help
the
it.
chemistry between those two, I think, is
Yeah,
great. Honestly, I think the chemistry between Hayden and Ewan, and I'm glad we get to see the chemistry between Hayden and Ewan right now because we get to
yeah. Obviously, that's
we get to
coming
see
very
it
soon
in a
again.
month, almost a month for Kenobi. Um,
Yeah,
uh, yeah,
it makes me wish that we'd get more Ewan of is Ewan also is so good when he's playing happy Obi-Wan, when he's playing irreverent
oh
Obi-Wan.
yeah,
I wish we I don't expect to get a lot of that in Kenobi,
no,
quite
unfortunately
frankly.
not. No,
Um, so I really wish that we'd seen more of that in the prequels because
Agreed.
it is so delightful.
Yeah.
Not only because Ewan McGregor, doing what he does with a lot of skill and charisma to bring Obi-Wan to life, but knowing what Obi-Wan's going through, it feels like it feels like when I see Obi-Wan smile, that's one of those characters where that feeds my soul.
Oh,
We all
absolutely.
have characters like that. I have a lot of
Ray.
them in Star Wars. Yeah, Ray is one of yours. I think
Yeah.
I think maybe Kanan is another one of mine.
Best Dune boy.
Yeah. We all have we all have those characters that are no, Squidward, good for your soul. That's how I would describe those rare moments of happy Obi-Wan.
Yeah. Uh we got in the elevator, we have three memes. Three memes in the elevator. Anakin jumps out of the elevator and Obi-Wan just goes, one of my favorite lines. Always on the move.
Yeah.
And then
Always on the move.
my one of my personal favorite memes from Revenge of the Sith actually. Ought to stop. We need to be getting up.
Yeah.
Which is I mentioned this on the Radio Rebellion trivia stream, but whenever things don't go well for me, I always say to myself, Otto, we need to be getting up, not down. Also, when Anakin jumps down and Obi Wan goes, "Oh, it's you." Three memes in 1 minute. That was 3 minutes in 1 minute. Um, yeah, love that stuff. Uh,
Yeah, it's great.
oh,
Good stuff.
yeah. Also, speaking of dialogue that shouldn't work but does, well, R2 is no loose wire jokes. Did I say anything? He's trying. I didn't say anything.
Yeah, I mean, like I said,
Shouldn't work but
that's the kind of
does.
thing that makes me happy as well when you just have Anakin and Obi-Wan. As much as they are brothers, I also love it when they just act like an old married couple.
Yeah.
I love the parallel of Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan facing the destroyers at the end of the hallway in the Phantom Menace, with Anakin and Obi-Wan facing them in
I
Revenge of the
adore
Sith.
that too. Yeah.
Yeah, because I
Um,
think it just begs the viewer
yeah.
um to ask, what if it was Anakin and Qui-Gon?
Yeah.
What if Qui-Gon was
Was
still there? And that's the most heartbreaking
yeah. But
prospect.
also, like, Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, I don't mean to insult them or anything or say they're not powerful Jedi. They are. But notice how much they were struggling against the Droidekas in Phantom Menace. They,
Yeah,
it wasn't like they were gonna get gunned down by the Droidekas, but like they were like, okay. But Anakin and Obi-Wan, it's boom, boom, boom. It's not a
yeah,
challenge anymore because this is their life day in day out for the last 3 years.
yeah. They're just used to this kind of
Yeah,
heavy warfare
yeah,
constantly.
yeah. Which is another great parallel. Um,
Yeah,
let's go to Dooku and Anakin versus Obi Wan. Anakin's already joined the dark side here. Dooku versus Obi Wan and Anakin.
let's do it.
We have three memes in this scene. Before Anakin manages to defeat Dooku. Get help, you're no match for him. He's a Sith Lord. Chancellor Palpatine. Sith Lords are our speciality.
I don't think Obi-Wan thought that line through.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it.
Also,
I'll be the first to admit.
yeah. Also, they start the duel. I've been looking forward to this. My power, and then the second one is my powers have doubled since the last time we met Count. Good. Twice the pride, double the fall. But what do you think of this duel? I will say this. What do you think of this duel?
I love this duel. I think the Anakin line makes more sense, although it is still a bit more nonsensical, given that now we've had, obviously only a couple months ago their duel on gosh, what's the Pike planet?
Obadiah.
Only yeah, their duel on Obadiah only a couple months ago. But I think given how Anakin, in some ways his power is increasing exponentially, even though it's only been a couple months, given that he is really kind of letting himself just fall off the wagon and really give in to his anger and rage, because that's kind of the only way he can touch Dooku in a fight.
Absolutely, yeah. No, there's that line, of course. I sense much fear in you, young Skywalker.
Yeah.
You have hate, you have anger, but you don't use them. Yeah, I think I'm a bit more lukewarm on this duel, as you and Connor found out in that tier list episode, where you
Yeah.
both were mortally offended by my take. I'm sorry about that. But anyway.
Never apologize.
Yep. Whatever, I don't care. I'm still offending Connor with the V-Wing take. Trust me. I will say, I think I like the pace of the duel better once Obi-Wan's taken out. Once Obi-Wan taken out, the duel gets way more intense, I feel like. Also, can we talk about maybe one of the weirdest deliveries of any word in this movie? When I think it's when Obi-Wan pushes Dooku, force pushes Dooku, and Palpatine goes, "Get!"
Oh yeah, that
Why?
very interesting.
Why?
Very interesting delivery. Really not sure what that's about.
Yeah. And then we get to the scene where Anakin cuts off Dooku's arms, and then he does our famous cross lightsabers, which to me is the intertwining of his light and dark side destinies.
Yeah.
You know, it's the it is the two paths that Anakin has been battling between all of this time coming to a head and crossing blades, and they're crossing destinies. His feelings, his emotions, his path to the dark side, his path to light are coming together in this crucial moment.
Absolutely, 100%. It's an incredible moment. Goes without saying.
Yeah.
Just the ferocity that Anakin brings once Obi-Wan goes down.
Absolutely.
Is incredible. It's so cool how, even after the first couple of blows, Dooku, when you have that pause, he seems a bit more uneasy. He can maybe it seems to me like he can sense Anakin's growing power, and the way that Anakin's inhibition is waning, the way that there's less and less preventing him from just fully tapping into his rage and using that to fuel his combat.
Yep.
What about Dooku's reaction to Palpatine's betrayal?
Because the look on his face, the look on Dooku's face is brilliant.
I can just imagine everything that's flashing through his head, all his hard work.
My favorite thing,
life as a Jedi, a Sith.
My favorite thing is we talked about a Clone Wars trope that we talked about a lot, is the whole pawns stuff where Dooku holograms one of his pawns, and they're like, yeah, Dooku, everything's going fine. And Dooku's like, yeah, they better be, or I'll have your skin for it. Like, I wonder if in that moment Dooku's thinking of Mirage Sintel, of O.C. Sobek, of Sanjay Rash, of Rich Liu, of Rick Tamsin, of all the people he's manipulated as a pawn, or of Andente in the Crystal Crisis arc.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh shit, I'm one of them too.
Yeah. I think, he thinks that he's trying to turn Anakin to the dark side because Anakin will go destroy the Jedi or whatever. But Dooku's last action, he thought that Anakin was the pawn, but it was really him
the entire time.
It's incredible.
Anakin is a pawn in a different way, but
yeah.
Yeah. I need to reference two memes in this section.
Of course.
First one, good Anakin. Good. And of course, the second one, kill him. Kill him now. I shouldn't. Say it with me, everyone.
Do it.
I can't explain to you how much of an icon that's become on the internet.
Yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. It's taken.
I was saying, of all of the nerd, inner geekdom geek movies out there, I think there are only two that rival Revenge of the Sith in terms of internet popularity. Zack Snyder's Justice League and Avengers Infinity War. Can you think of two geek movies, the the internet loves 3 geek movies. The internet loves more than Zack Snyder's Justice League, Infinity War, and Revenge of the Sith. Also, this is the other one. I find this line interesting. It is only natural. He cut off your arm. You wanted revenge.
Yeah.
The Palpatine scale doesn't even work within its own logic, because by its own logic, Anakin should have just cut, like, the revenge for cutting off somebody else's arm is not killing them. It's cutting off their arm.
But this is Anakin and Palpatine
scale.
We're talking
Yeah,
about.
No,
this
absolutely.
Is Anakin and, like...
No, absolutely. And this is what makes the Palpatine-Anakin relationship and Palpatine's manipulative quality so great, is that he's able to make the craziest things sound reasonable.
I think this is another moment that is really, really enhanced by the Clone Wars. Because taken in context of Clone Wars, this is not just Palpatine sweet-talking Anakin a little bit, so to speak. This is Palpatine putting some of the finishing touches on 3 or more years of hardcore manipulating Anakin into not trusting the Jedi, of manipulating Anakin into letting himself just in manipulating Anakin into justifying giving into his worst impulses, giving into the dark side in the worst ways.
Yeah, absolutely. It's yeah. Palpatine's manipulations in this film are perfect. They hit every mark they're supposed to. It works. It just works so well. There are 3 more memes in this section. After Dooku's death, Obi-Wan and Anakin run into some ray shields. Wait a minute, how did this happen? We're smarter than this. Apparently not. And then, of course, 2 General Grievous lines.
Yes, the negotiator, General Kenobi.
And, of course,
your lightsabers will make a fine addition to my collection.
Yeah, it's just packed. And I want to go back to the ray shield for a minute. Is this just Anakin like trolling Obi-Wan? Does he have a reason why Anakin being Anakin and Obi-Wan being Obi-Wan, all of a sudden Anakin is
like, I say patience.
All of a sudden he's the one preaching patience. Is there what did you think about that?
I think there might be a little bit of trolling.
That.
I think there might be a bit of trolling, honestly. I could see that, yeah. I gotta say, I want to talk about General Grievous. I really do want to talk about General Grievous, because I'm a huge Grievous fan. To the delight of Devore, I know, to the disgust of Alden Diaz, because I know Alden doesn't like Grievous. I agree with most of Alden's opinions. That's not one of them. Sorry. But anyway, 2003 Clone Wars Grievous is great. As we've discussed, 3D animated Clone Wars Grievous kind of sucks. 2005 Revenge of the Sith Grievous is perfect in every single way. I think he's not overly cartoony, but like he's just as intimidating as he needs to be. He's mustache twirling a little bit, but he gets shit done. I mean, like, I really, like, I love that he can be so intimidating, and then we can hear Mace Windu go, General Grievous will run and hide as he always does. He's a coward that way.
Yeah. I wish they'd make him a little bit more like 2000. I wish they'd make him a little bit more like Tartakovsky Clone Wars.
I get that.
To be honest, I think we could have used some of that badassery in that moment. It just every time a villain kind of pulls that escape card, it's not the worst. It's not the end of the world to me, but it doesn't feel great as I'm getting into this movie. It always feels a little bit anticlimactic.
For me, here's why I guess I like where Grievous is at in here. And this is actually going into one of my biggest flaws with Revenge of the Sith. And it feels like for every action sequence in this movie, they presented the action sequence to George, and he's like, great, just make it 25% bigger. There's an over-the-top factor to this, where it just feels like, okay, we're not just gonna have Anakin and Obi-Wan save the Chancellor, but we're gonna have them do it in a ship that literally splits in half. And then knocks over a tower as it crashes below on fire, and it's epic and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, okay, but do we really need this? Like, it gets to a point where all of this ridiculous, like, hyperbole gets a little ridiculous. You know what I mean?
Yeah. A little bit.
By the way, speaking of abandoning ship memes, we got 3 more memes. The one I was talking to you earlier about.
Time to abandon ship.
And of course, Obi-Wan's two quips. Not to worry, we are still flying half a ship, and another heavy landing. Oh, actually, 2 other ones when they're talking afterwards. Oh no, I'm not brave enough for politics. And hold on, this whole operation was your idea. And of course, the infamous no, that business on Cato Neimoidia doesn't count. But what else do you got for this part of Revenge of the Sith, Jacob? After Grievous escapes.
I love the death-defying stunts. It was a part that I didn't really remember from the last time I watched it, but I loved it. I think the descent of the Invisible Hand is thrilling. The 2 meme lines, obviously, the 1-2 punch. The amazing duel with the Magna Guards. But I mean, I think one thing that stood out to me about the one thing that stood out to me about the landing of the Invisible Hand and the way Obi-Wan reacted to it, the way people reacted to it, I think the Clone Wars makes us take some of Anakin's heroics for granted.
Yeah.
But I think this amazing ship landing, I think it's kind of a reminder coming out of that of the reason that Anakin has a near mythical status among the
hero
public.
with no fear.
Yeah, the hero with no fear among the Jedi, why he's held in so high regard, the reason he faces so much pressure, the reason that Palpatine can stroke his ego so much, the reason he has so much leeway to commit war crimes and do all kinds of crazy shit. It's because half of what he pulls off is simply unreal. You know, the way Obi-Wan's like kind of seeding that he's the hero. He's saying, no, you're the hero, dude.
Yeah.
You rescued me, you rescued Palpatine, you fought off Dooku, you killed Dooku single-handedly, all while and you escaped while carrying me on your back, etc. Like, I think it's a great example of I think again it kind of gets a little bit lost in the Clone Wars of just how tremendous Anakin's skill truly is and just what a prodigy he really is. And that I think everything makes a little bit more sense and flows a little bit more satisfyingly when we really kind of see, oh, like Anakin's kind of just, he's kind of just on a level all on his own in terms of people fighting in the Clone Wars.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with Anakin's like mythical status among everyone and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I will say this. My last note is for this episode is about that time on Cato Neimoidia.
Yeah.
We finally got it. We finally got the reference that we've been talking about on In the Galaxy for years. I hear also that Mike Chen is he's the author of that new book Brotherhood, which follows Anakin and Obi-Wan right after Attack of the Clones. Is writing in that book about that time on Cato Neimoidia. Now, if we can get a Star Wars writer to write about the swarm of Venomites on Draboon from Voyage of Temptation, that's going to be our ultimate victory, but I'm not going to aim too high right now. That's fine. Yeah. That's it, actually. That's all I got so far. If you got anything else?
That's pretty much it. One thing in Legends, the scene where the shuttle is landing, the scene where the shuttle with Anakin and Obi-Wan in it is landing at the Senate hangars. In Legends, you there's a small shot with a very far off YT 1300 freighter.
In canon too.
Also,
It's still there.
a very certain Y1300 freighter that's still there. I can't confirm this for canon, but I know that in Legends, that was the Millennium Falcon under
Yeah.
previous name and ownership. I'm not sure if that is the case in canon, though.
I'm not sure if it's in canon.
It is
but
actually, wait, no, it's not the case in canon
It's,
because the mandibles, at this point, it would have been Lando, the escape pod would have still been there. They wouldn't have had the cargo mandibles.
that's true.
Yeah. So I think only in Legends, unfortunately, but again,
But
just another.
it looks
really
like
cool
the Falcon.
Yeah.
That is going to be it for this episode of Star Wars in a Galaxy. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks so much for coming back. We're gonna be back for good now. Hope you didn't miss us too much. Next week, we are going to be continuing on the Siege of Mandalore: Revenge of the Sith train. We are going to be watching the 25-minute mark of Sith to the 50-minute and 19-second mark. And then we're going to be watching the second episode of the Siege of Mandalore, The Phantom Apprentice, is what's going to happen. In the meantime, follow us on Twitter and Instagram at In a Galaxy Pod and at Star Wars in a Galaxy, respectively. Listen to us on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts. Anywhere you listen to your podcast, we'll be there. If we're not, email us at swinagalaxy@gmail.com. Follow my personal Twitter account at OGFan327. And please leave a 5-star rating and review if you can. It really does help our visibility. But I think until then, may the Force be with you always.